just gets it. He just understands what it means. He likes to get into the real thick of it. He likes battles. Casemiro is the most disrespected player I've ever seen at the club.
He's going to beat this record, whether you like the way or not. He is still beating a record that has been held by two extremely amazing players, and you cannot then turn around and say, oh, well, he can't ever be in a conversation about any of them.
Let's not talk about winning the Premier League title, because clearly that was too much for anyone to ever ask of Fernandes. But let's
taking that back.
No, that's it now.
One
that's
position.
it now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're
not moving on. We ain't going anywhere. You've had your fun. When was this time where Bruno Fernandes was supposed to lead us to Premier League glory with this great squad? Hello, welcome to Inside Devils, the show that keeps you bang up to date with everything going on in and out of Old Trafford. The last game, it was a 2-2 draw. I don't know what it is against Bournemouth. We just can never get a W. 4-4 earlier on in the season and 2-2 the other day at the Vitality Stadium. Joining me, of course, is Angelina Kelly. As usual, she's here. And today, after being named and shamed, and I didn't even want this guy on the show. I'm only joking. Is Anil Kandola as well. He's with us as well. This show is brought to you by BetMGM. You can download the app or you can visit the website, betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus. Make sure you gamble responsibly and gambleaware.org. Let's talk. We've got a lot to get through in this show. I'm so glad you're here because we're going to be talking about Bruno Fernandes, his hatred towards us. But Ange, it was a draw, 2-2. Crookie was sort of saying, this is a game, a draw, it's a tough place to go.
Yeah.
They're unbeaten in 10. They're not winning many football matches, but they don't know how to lose. PGMOL, they had a say in what's gone on. We've put in an official complaint since then. How did you see it? Good point, considering, look what happened with Chelsea, look what happened with Liverpool.
Yeah, I think overall it was, like, you'll take a point. At the end of the day, because of other clubs not doing what they're supposed to be doing, like Chelsea, like Liverpool, we are still, in my opinion, favourites for finishing third and definitely finishing in a Champions League spot. So not too worrying. I think it was a little bit frustrating at the time, but then you take everything into account, like you say, seeing Chelsea and Liverpool both lose on Saturday, you 100% take the point. Obviously, the refereeing decisions weren't great. The PGMOL complaint, I get it, but I also don't really, like, it's not really going to do anything. I think it's just maybe exerting a little bit of power there from Manchester United to say, you know, we're going to do this, but doesn't really change anything. Nice to see Michael Carrick, you know, come out and show a little bit. Not that I'm criticising him, I'm not saying he's not got a personality, but, you know, to come out and be a little bit more raw.
First time we've seen that bit of him where he's like, don't get why that decision, this, that. Normally he's been quite coy on.
Yeah, and we don't want Harry Maguire to get a red card, but this is probably the best time for it because we've still got a little bit of time with the international break before the next game with Leeds. So Lisandro Martinez might be back, but still, he's not. I felt bad for him. Like you've just got your England call up, you're back, and then you have that red card. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into the refereeing decisions, but overall, you take the point.
Yeah. Anil, for you, are you looking at that game as one where you're going, you've got to be getting 3 points there, or do you see that actually a point away at Bournemouth is a good result, and do you think it was fair for us?
Yeah, I think before the game, firmly it's 3 points, especially at a time where the games now are really counting. There's not much time to try and recoup any points that you do lose because of course we've got fewer than 10 games remaining now, so it's an important time. But once you watch the game and see how it unfolded, I'll be honest, I said to you just before we went on today that the moment that penalty was given, Harry Maguire red card, I thought, right, United are going to lose this game now. And the fact that they hung on in difficult circumstances, 10 men, you know, I think there is some positives to take from that. Look, in the grand scheme of things, you always want the 3 points, but in the way that, of course, Bournemouth got back in the game, you know, the man advantage as well, I don't think in the grand scheme of things that a point was the worst result in the world, because I did think we'd lose, to be honest.
Oh, you thought we'd lose that?
Yeah, once the penalty happened, I thought, right.
Oh, right, from that point.
You know, a bit of PTSD, thinking, I've watched this team crumble so many times, I think, yeah.
What did you make of those decisions then? So, Andrew's saying, obviously, of course, we've complained to the PGMOL. You never complain to them
ridiculous,
to give the points back or to replay the game. Yeah. You just want to, show your distaste. But do you think we were hard done by? Do you agree with the fact what a lot of United fans are saying of the consistency, don't understand it? Or do you think that, we're kind of crying about nothing?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit fickle when fans use an example from 3 months ago and say, well, that referee gave that decision in that game, but then we didn't get it in this game. But if we look at just that game in isolation, there was no consistency. So if you're going to give fouls and penalise players and teams for fouls like the one that we saw that wasn't given, that of course United are going to complain about, which is again a little bit ridiculous. Like you said, it's just a whole load of nothing, isn't it? To just say we're not happy, but what's actually going to come off the back of it, right? So yeah, I think that's the frustrating element at the fact that even within that game we saw inconsistencies with the decisions. So if the referee was giving other challenges away and letting the game play, then I don't think there would have been made too much of that incident with Man United at the end for their claimed penalty. But the way it was officiated, it should have been a penalty. So I think that's the element of frustration. But this is the referee.
Do you agree that it was a penalty to Ahmad? And that they shouldn't have given the penalty to Evan Nilsson. If you haven't given the Ahmad one, it shouldn't be a red card. He's thrown himself down, etc. How do you see this decision?
I mean, regarding Evan Nilsson kind of throwing himself on the floor, that's just part of the course in the Premier League. You could argue that Cunha, that was a penalty, but he made a meal of it, and that is what happens. I accept that. I understand what people are saying in that it's harsh to give one and not the other. But I think you just look at this situation with Stuart Atwell, and like you say, you don't always have to go back to other situations, but he does have a track record because I've made a few notes here. He was the VAR for Arsenal Everton when Havertz had a similar penalty not given, and I think he needs to work on his consistency. That's all I'll say. You could argue United got a little bit lucky, against Crystal Palace with Cunha, got the penalty after Lacroix was sent off. That's kind of a similar thing of like, oh, well, it technically is, but maybe it's a little bit harsh. So it's kind of similar with the Maguire thing. But you look at some of the other decisions we've had this season. Nathan Collins not being sent off after pulling back Brian Mbeumo in the box, denied the goal scoring opportunity. That was wild. Yeah. Howard Webb actually admitted it should have been a red. Lisandro Martinez's goal that was disallowed for minimal contact with Kyle Walker against Burnley. Atwell was the referee that day. Patrick Dorgu when Walker stamped on his leg. Yeah. Opening day, Cunha denied a penalty when William Saliba fouled him. So I don't think that it's not a thing of Man United are hard done by, let's get all the violins out. It's just that these inconsistencies happen. There's a few of them that Stuart Atwell is linked to. So I think, his homework for the summer needs to be working on a bit of consistency.
Yeah, I mean, every fan likes to think they're the hardest done by VAR. I don't tend to push into that narrative because for me, I don't see this as a Man United problem. I'm not sitting there going...
He was scared, though. Because the penalty had already been given, he was scared to give the one.
And more importantly, because Bournemouth scored. I think because they scored directly after that, I think that intensified the situation of we're literally going to have to disallow an equaliser and potentially make Man United go 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And then Bournemouth are done. I'm not saying they would be, but do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I do think that, and for me, I actually do like the fact we did complain, not because obviously you're never going to get the points back, and sometimes it can look a bit moany, but I see this as a all of us need to be anti-establishment kind of vibe. Yeah. We all need to come together. So like Leeds fans, Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans, Spurs fans, let's all make sure we're just on them so that the next batch of games, or hopefully at the end of the season, they sit down and go, we can't, because what they can't tolerate, I don't care what anyone says, they can't have the 20 clubs being unhappy all the time and publicly coming out and going at them. It will force them to sit down and go, right, what are we doing about these pens? If it's a brush, if it's a little tug, are we giving them? Are we not? Let's raise the threshold entirely, or let's drop it. Let's just be consistent. But if we don't make enough noise, all of us, I just think it gets too tribal when, a Villa fan will say, yeah, but why are you moaning about that? And I laugh at an Arsenal fan and say, shut up. No, I think this is one time where all the fans, we actually all need to be on the same page. All the clubs anyway. Yeah. All the secretaries need to be like, let's all apply pressure to the Premier League. Let's all apply pressure to the PGMOL. So when we get to the end of the season, we can all sit in there, and leave our biases aside, leave our tribalism aside and say, what is going on with the state of our officiating? We need to fix this, because for me, I'm not in the camp of, like you said, give one. I'm saying if none of them are pens, and we're saying we're taking out those type of penalties from our game, fine. If we're saying we're accepting these type of penalties in our game, fine. Exactly, it's not really fine, but you go, right, well, that's a decision.
Yeah.
And you're right. You know what? The Evan Nilsson one, I was angry at the time, but then the more I think about it, you're right, and like, it's the way of the game. Yeah. It's same with Matheus Cunha's one. When he gets his shirts pulled, if he doesn't actually exaggerate...
You'd have some coaches pulling him saying, why didn't you do it?
Do you know what I mean? And if he shrugs him off, because he's just really strong and says, Jimenez, get off me, you 20-year-old kid, I've had you all game. But shoots off balance because of it and scuffs the chance, then we're at a disadvantage. So, yeah, I do get it. I think the decisions were wrong. I don't think it's just a Man United crybaby thing. We want the refs, people are like, Man United, the cheek of them. They get loads of penalties at Old Trafford, big club bias. But I'm saying from Wolves right up to Arsenal, everyone's getting it. Yeah. So I want to see us do what we need to do. On Matheus Cunha, though, from the left side, I thought he was really positive in the game. He's not a natural left-sided player. And you're wondering, are we shoehorning him in a little bit? Always wants to come inside, Anil. But actually, he took Jimenez down the outside in the first half, got a couple shots on target, wins the pen. The game before against Villa, from the left side, running from out to in, good finish past Martinez. Are we starting to see him, come on a little bit as our new left winger for the rest of the season at least?
I think he's so good. I really do. I think you hear all these cliches, don't you, about, especially when it comes to Man United, they just get it. But he just gets it. He just understands what it means. He likes to get into the real thick of it. He likes battles. He likes to go one-on-one with players throughout the whole of the game and make it a real personal battle. I can't remember which game it was now, but I think he cleared the ball and he was on the floor and he started cheering as
Liverpool?
he was...
it was Everton.
Yeah, and he was really giving it.
Yeah,
and look, this is a guy who wants to score goals and create chances, and he's on the other, in so-called, the wrong half of the pitch, and he's cheering as if he has scored a goal. That is the personality Man United have been missing for so long. Yeah, of course, you want the right players in the right positions, and people who are going to contribute in whatever they need to do. But there is just something I think you need in order to be a success at Man United. You need to be able to really understand that it's not just about playing good football or, attacking. It's about doing the dirty work and taking pride in that. I think he's just tailor-made. And this idea from Ineos, of course, they've had a lot of criticism, and rightly so in certain departments. But this idea of chasing Premier League proven players, we've seen it works. Yeah, they don't need time to adjust their game and, perhaps become more physical. They just go straight into it. And it's then, do you understand what it means to pay for a club at that size? And I think he just understands everything. He's took to it so well. And of course, there are still moments that he's not performing right at the highest level. But he's fast emerging as genuinely one of my favourite players in Man United right now. I think he is just a Brazilian box office player, isn't he? And I think he's perfect for United.
Do you remember, Ange, when he was on his way in, a few people, his character got...
The walking stats, weren't it? The walking stats.
You did the research, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly, about the lack of red cards that, some people would have liked to put on his name. But has he proved that he is the right temperament for this club? And
yeah, I think he's the perfect level of kind of arrogance. I was listening to Carl Anker, I think it was, saying something similar. He used a different word, which I'm not allowed to use because it would get bleeped out, but that vibe of he's that level of arrogant that you want your Manchester United players to be, but he's still, a really hard worker, like you say, arguably being shoehorned into positions that he maybe didn't sign up for when he came to the club, but he's doing his best with it. And I think overall, I think we've touched on it before, him and Mbeumo, I don't think you could have really asked much more of them coming into this Manchester United side, the drama that has gone on, and he's really, shown his worth in key moments. So, yeah.
And I think, sorry, just a quick one as well, is that, look, he signed for Amorim, right? And he's not there anymore. And then, of course, when Carrick comes in, Cunha started the first couple of games off the bench. And from everything we were told was, that's it. That will be the end of Cunha. He's going to throw his toys at the pram. He's used to being the main man, never mind just on the pitch. No complaints, came off, contributed with assists and goals when he did, and now he's a first one of the first names on the team sheet. So again, a massive credit to him, because you're right that there is a borderline of the right amount of arrogance, and then there's entitlement, which he's just not shown, which we were obviously all warned about, which isn't there at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, man. You got to have big characters. You got to have people who believe they should be at that level, and just in general, like his characteristics, even away from his character, like. Physically, like he's so strong in the ball, he's so direct, it's very difficult to nab the ball off him, he's got a clean touch. There has been times during the season when, we're saying, I just want a little bit more from him. Then he's shown it, then he might have not a little bit, then he shows it again. Well. And then now, Mbeumo's maybe dipped a little bit, but he's still our top scorer, I think. And when Cunha was trying to find his feet, he was ever present, Mbeumo was. So I just think as fans, we are always looking for the perfect sort of continuum for said player, which is just an upwards trajectory. But actually, it takes time, it takes patience, But when you look at the impact, even if it's not in goals and assists, you can see Cunha's exactly what we've needed. In terms of the team, Ange, that Carrick keeps picking, it's fairly routine now. I mean, we were in that bag of like, Šeško still can't start, will he, won't he? I just sort of got to a stage where I'm like, listen, when you, at the time, I think we'd won 7, drawn 1, lost 1. It's like such a good record. I'm like, Carrick, pick what you want. Like your record, who are we to argue? You know, we're 3rd in the Premier League. But he's got a settled team now, hasn't he? And that surely is a good thing, even though we've not got much to pick from. But
yeah, definitely. Like you say, we've not got loads of squad depth, and we've got certain injuries and things. I think if someone like Patrick Dorgu is back, maybe that will be a change, because he was firing on all cylinders before he got injured. Like I said, Lisandro Martinez will probably come in, especially with Harry Maguire getting that red card. So I think if he had everybody fit, there would probably be 1 or 2 tweaks. But overall, it is Man United's strongest 11, give or take. I don't have a problem with what Michael Carrick's doing. Like, let him pick whoever he wants. We've only got 1 game a week. So you've got to go out with
at best. Yeah, it's got 1 game in 24 days.
That's optimistic. We want a week.
Yeah, so he's got to do what he's got to do. I think it will be interesting if he does get the job full time, and if Man United do invest in the right areas. You are going to hopefully have cup competitions that we'll see through, for quite a long period versus this season. But how he's going to kind of juggle all of that and juggle minutes of players, juggle egos, etc. But I'd like to think we don't have too many egos in that dressing room. Anyway.
Yeah, especially under someone's tutorship like Carrick, who is so not egotistical.
Yeah,
he probably wouldn't be an embodiment of his squad. In terms of setting up. Out of the international break, like Andrew was saying, do you agree with that in terms of hopefully Leachy can be back then, 3 weeks off for him, Dorgu, an extra 3 weeks for him to basically, get fit. Well, actually, has the international break come at a good time? Not just international break, but the fact that it's never a good thing that you're out of the FA Cup. We don't want to celebrate that, but we have actually got 3 weeks where, Dorgu can get fit again. Lisandro Martinez hopefully can get fit again. Well, he'll probably be closer than Dorgu, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you don't ever want to relish in the fact that United are in a lack of competitions. They're actually not fighting for any titles at the moment, which is a shame given the fact that we're not even in April yet, right? But you have to try and look at what ways that will benefit Man United. And I don't think it's just this season or just for Carrick to figure out which players are in the best positions and stuff. It's also essentially for, as Angeli's already said, 1 game a week type of thing. They're trials. They're trials for next season, if it is going to be Carrick or if it's going to be someone else who's watching, because whoever the Man United manager is going to be next season will be watching the games right now. So they'll need to realise and figure out very quickly which players will be playing in the positions that they want them to be in. And it is an opportunity for all the players to start on a clean slate almost, yet again. But, to show, right, okay, I know we're just at a bit of a stopgap, if you like, for this season, get through it, secure Champions League football, and then we'll go again. But it's also to stake a claim for the new manager or for Carrick to say, right, I provided when you needed me to. Now we've got opportunity to fight on all fronts. I'm the guy. I'm the guy you need to trust in whatever position. So from a squad selection, because it's obviously been a problem, even, you look at Amorim, which there's no point even speaking about that debacle, but even under Erik ten Hag, constant changes, constant tweaks, always, is it going to be that player or not? Now, realistically, I know obviously barring 1 or 2 injuries, like you said, about Dorgu and Martinez, the only question really is Šeško going to start? Yeah. Everywhere else, it's right there now.
And I don't even care about that.
Yeah,
anymore.
and you're fine with both ways, right? But you're fine with both ways. So it's a strong position for them to be in. It's a healthy environment. It's just now the importance of really nailing down who is going to be a part of that team and squad going ahead when there are going to be 50, 60, 70, hopefully, games next season. So, yeah, I think they just need to take this opportunity if they get one and just stake a claim to say, I'm going to be here for a long time.
Because you are here, actually, because I know Andrew's thoughts on this, because we discussed this player last week with Crookie and the contract situation. A player didn't play his best level against Bournemouth, Casemiro, but listen, has been great this year and did really well in the last game before that. There are reports, that Man United might try and say, I was going to say that, a couple of reports coming out, Man United might try and talk to him again, see what we can work.
Unless
you know what I mean?
Unless I'm hearing it from Crook,
the Oracle, let's hear it from him.
She's correct.
But where are your thoughts on that? He didn't have his best game. I feel like the Bournemouth game.
On Flex's bandwagon.
No, it's not mine. No.
His kids might need to do the sats or something.
Hold on a second. Will you jump on the Stretford Ends bandwagon who were asking for one more year? 'Cause it wasn't me who made the chant.
You weren't singing along on your own.
Match going fans in the Stretford End, the strong Mancunians.
Added more onto it.
That was saying one more
in Manchester still. Because I'm sure Mrs. Casemiro is thinking, oh, you know what? Manchester's just been so amazing. Forget Madrid where we live. Like this is the best place ever.
Well, Mrs. Fernandes also said to her husband, "We can go to Saudi and get the big bag, but are you finished here, husband? No? Okay, we're not going."
Mrs. Casemiro said that and he was like, yeah, I'm finished in a bit.
Which is why he's done the whole thing saying I'm leaving. But
the case, yeah.
But
you can dream.
Would you try to get involved in any talks of him staying beyond this season if financially it could look?
Well, that's the where the book stops and starts, right? It's the fact that he's on an astronomical wage, and if he was going to stay, he'd have to take a significant pay cut. We're talking minimum 50%.
Yeah.
Minimum to even just stay on the books. And I get it from a perspective of Ineos. Their main port of call for when they come in was the old marginal gains and, making sure that the wage structure's a lot better, which I think we all can agree that it needs to be better than what it is. Providing that much money for players who haven't yet warranted it is a problem. But I've said it so many times, I've tweeted it countlessly, I've been on shows, I've said it, I genuinely think in my life of watching Man United, Casemiro is the most disrespected player I've ever seen at the club. Okay, in the first season and in this season, people are giving him his plaudits. But this is a guy who has been shoehorned into positions, being asked to do things that he's never done in his career. As you go on and progress in your career, you should be required to do less running. He's been asked to do more running than he ever has in the whole of his career to cover so much space, especially in the Amorim system. And then people are going, right, well, his legs are gone, he's old. Jamie Carragher had to issue an apology to say, okay, maybe the football hasn't left him. Because you don't lose that quality just like that. Especially in the way that he plays. It's not like off the top of my head, someone like a Theo Walcott, whose whole career was based on how quick he was. That's going to go. That's going to leave you as you get older. His was never that. It was, I can make a couple of late runs into the box. I can just dictate play and give it to the players who are going to progress. I genuinely think he is, like I've said already, one of the most disrespected players because he is, for me, the best player in that position that I've ever seen. Not just at Man United, of course, of what he's done at Real Madrid. And
he's the best holding midfielder you've ever seen.
What I've seen, when you play at the highest level at Real Madrid and not just contribute and play a few games, you are the reason why the likes of Modric and Kroos can be lauded as the best midfielders of a generation, because your job and your responsibility is so important. He is just dynamite. And again, what we were saying about Cunha, maybe it's a Brazilian thing, but he just understands it. You can see the passion, and we always see these great videos and pictures of Schweinsteiger always taking a selfie with the TV when Man United win. He was there for 2 years, 3 years max. Casemiro is going to be like that. And it's such a shame that he was only respected in the appropriate way in his first season, obviously, when they won a trophy straight away, 5-year drought, gone when he came in, and now when he's about to leave. He's dynamite, and I think he is so important to what Man United can do. And I know we're going to talk about Bruno Fernandes, but it would not be possible for him to do what he's doing if Casemiro wasn't behind him in this system. You look at what Amorim was trying to do with Fernandes, dropping him all sorts, and then he said 5-6 months into his time at Man United, I'm starting to figure out now what Casemiro can do. You're starting now to figure out what a 5-time Champions League winner can do. When you have him in that position, then you can have Fernandes doing whatever the hell he wants because you've got that structure behind him. So yeah, I would absolutely love Casemiro to stay, but unfortunately he's not going to be.
Anil Kandola, I've just seen the most perfectly put monologue in support of Casemiro. That was beautiful words.
Thank you.
I think you know where this is going to go.
I wonder.
I've never seen you defend our captain in this way.
No.
Shame it doesn't transition to
this is actually crazy work what's going on here.
Yeah.
So you've just passionately defended Casemiro.
I have done, yeah.
The most disrespected player in football history. The best number 6 you've ever seen. And you're saying that people need to champion him more. And he's the reason why Bruno Fernandes can go and do what he does. But a lot of the things you were just saying there, my friend, are very the same things that you've used as a stick to beat Bruno Fernandes with. Because also in this final where we finished at 15th and lost against Spurs, he didn't play very well.
Casemiro?
Yeah.
How much was he really playing under Amorim?
And also before that, you've passionately defended all these things around Casemiro he hasn't got and all these things. But when it's Bruno, that energy isn't always there. This is a good segue.
Yeah, perfect.
So on to our captain.
Yeah,
Bruno Fernandes has now created 101 chances in the league this season.
Yeah.
The fewest number of appearances, 28. Manchester United player has needed to reach 100 chances in the Premier League campaign to record on record, ahead of Ryan Giggs. Yeah. He's done that in the 06-07 season, but he did it in 29 games, so good company. Bruno Fernandes. Yeah. Just feelings on him.
Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and give you your headline for the video just yet.
What headline?
But I will clarify.
We haven't asked you for a headline.
No, I'll give you it eventually, but not yet. I will say he has been the best player in the Premier League this season. He has. I'm not going to say that he hasn't. He's obviously operating at a level, I think anyway, that I haven't seen him do to this standard consistently since he's been at Man United. My problem is not with saying that he's a very good player. He is a very, very, very good player, the best in the Premier League right now. My only problem is when we start to try and push him into the upper echelons and the top elite bracket of all-time Premier League midfielders that we've ever seen. He's a very good player and his stats are phenomenal. But the difference between the stats that we compare with him about, the all-time top assists and all that kind of stuff, the same way that you can use it in support, I can use it against. We can talk about how many have come from open play. I think it's 2 more than Odegaard in, 12 fewer stats from Odegaard's perspective, right? And we also want to laud Bruno Fernandes for, we don't care if it's from set pieces. Look at the delivery he's got. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. But then it's the same fans, including myself, that hate watching Arsenal because all they do is rely on set pieces. All they do is just want to whip the ball in, and when they score from corners, no one ever talks about how good the delivery is. Everyone always talks about, it's just a dirty, scrappy goal that someone's put in, right? No one's lauding Arsenal for their delivery. It's the fact that that's all they rely on. So we can use it to beat the stick with Arsenal, but then we've got to use it to praise.
So what
Bruno.
are you saying? So you're trying to bring down?
I'm just saying.
Only 7 from open play.
Bruno Fernandes the same way that you treat Arsenal.
If your narrative is that you don't like the way Arsenal are winning games,
but that's so for the record, that's not my
and it's not mine.
Yeah, but that's what we're hearing, right? We're hearing even people on across the talkSPORT network saying that there's going to be an asterisk. They're the worst Premier League champions if they do go and win it. But look at the way they're going to win it, right? And I don't think they are wrong. If they do win the league, I think they would be the worst Premier League champions that we've seen, right? But that's just what I don't get. And it's great. We can champion these players. We can enjoy them. We can appreciate them. But why do we have to try and continuously push it to a level that he is not at for me? He is not within the top 10 Premier League midfielders of all time. He's not even in the top 15. If you push me, I probably could name 20 Premier League midfielders better than him of all time. So while we can appreciate someone, and which I started this by saying he is the best player in the Premier League right now, he doesn't have to be elevated into an all-time conversation. I just don't understand the necessity for that. And to go, right, well, if he doesn't win Player of the Year, it's a travesty. Yes, he is performing. But in my personal opinion, I think that the Player of the Season should be a part of the team that have won it. I think if Man United win the league, could you imagine if Man United win the league next season and then the Player of the Year is not from Man United? We would all be up in arms. And I think so. I think the best player...
It depends on how the team's performing. It depends.
It has happened recently. I think, was it Mo
Salah's done it. Yeah.
Kante's done it.
And I get it, right? But then...
It's happened loads of times.
And if you have an extraordinary season, I'm not going to say, no, that's wrong. That's everything wrong.
Bruno Fernandes might literally break the whole assist record.
Yeah, he might break the assist record.
That's quite extraordinary.
He will. He probably will. He probably will. But then at the same time...
How many of those are from open play, though?
Well, you want to know how many of Omri's 20 were from set pieces? 0. 20 out of 20 he went from open play. Kevin De Bruyne, who was on 20 as well, he equalled it. 17, I think, of them were from open play.
Was he on corner duty, Henry?
Does he need to be?
Well, no, because he's a striker.
Does he need to be?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a striker at the whole of the time he was at Arsenal. He played on the left-hand side for a large part as well.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been... But he wasn't chief... set piece take for shooting. He was, but not for. He's a goal scorer.
No, and that's fine. And I'm glad. Like, in the exact same way that we were when we were getting absolutely ridiculed for our Amorim stick, saying we don't support Man United, right? Yeah. we've both said it, and I'll stand by it. I will be so happy to be proven wrong about Amorim if he just turned everything round. Man United were incredible playing 3. I will hold my hands up and go,
so what's
yes.
Bruno got to do?
And I've done that. I've said this season he's playing at a level that no one else is at the moment, not just at Man United, across the division. Yeah. But I just don't like it when we try and push him right to a level where I just don't think he's at. You talk about the likes of Gerrard, he had a very similar situation of having so many players around him just not at the level required for him to win a Premier League title. The lowest Gerrard ever finished was 8th. And he had players like Lucas Leiva and Downing and Andy Carroll. No disrespect to these players, but they're certainly not better than the quality that Bruno Fernandes has had during the time that he's been at Man United.
So you see this 15th thing, because we keep having an argument about this. So you're saying... essentially
15th is crazy, Flex. Come on. Did you ever think
we'd have finished lower than that if it wasn't for Bruno?
And
his thing, Ange, right, is that if he's that good, how do we finish 15th? No captain. That happened on your watch.
He's that good. He's that good that he stops us from being relegated.
But then who stopped Tottenham from getting relegated last season? Who was the star man? Can you think of anyone?
They just managed to get some points.
Yeah, they managed to get some points. They didn't need a star man because the other 3 teams that went down were so bad. So we can sit here all we want and talk about Fernandes saved Man United's season last season. Who saved Spurs' season last season?
I'm not having this.
Who saved them?
They finished below us, mate. They finished below us. Right,
one position.
No, that's it now.
One
that's
position.
it now. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, we're not moving on. We ain't going anywhere. You've had your fun. Yeah. You sit here talk about Casemiro being the most disrespected player and all this stuff. No. Bruno Fernandes is the most overhated player I've ever seen.
This is what I mean.
Even by his own fans. Now, I will agree with you to a certain extent of I'm not really sitting here trying to put him in the top 10 of all ever time and saying he gets into the all-time 11 of Man United. Listen, this, that and the other.
But I think it's disrespectful to be like, he cannot even enter
like
that
he can't talk to them. Exactly.
What do you mean
because he finished 15th.
What do you mean? It's not just that.
He scored.
Whichever way he's going to beat this record, whether you like the way or not, he is still beating a record that has been held by 2 extremely amazing players. And you cannot then turn around and say, oh, well, he can't ever be in a conversation about any of them because United finished 15th and, a lot of them were from set pieces. It's still an achievement, and I don't see what's wrong in celebrating the achievement, but also saying he could be in a conversation because he has emulated, if not surpassed, the achievements of some of the best.
Well, what happens when we talk about individual players, is we start to flick this switch that football becomes an individual sport. So by you saying, oh, he can't be that good because the whole Man United finished 15th, but they didn't finish 15th because of Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes got 19 goals and 19 assists last year, playing further away from the goal he's ever played under the last manager, which was we all admit, was an absolute travesty. Henry and all the good players who have won top things, they didn't win them by themselves.
No.
The same way you don't just, when things go bad, it's not all your fault. And when we look at Bruno Fernandes, he is a player that operates at the most consistent level in spite of what's going on around him. No excuses, no reasons as to why, no sort of I need this and I need that.
He's context proof.
He's 100%. Like, I don't have the strikers. Because actually, the only thing that's changed around Bruno Fernandes, because there's this myth now that's going around that Bruno Fernandes is all of a sudden a better player. Nonsense, bro. Nonsense.
He's certainly got better this season.
If you look at his numbers, he's always laid on the most chances. He's always created the most chances. He's always scored a relative amount of goals like he has now. And he's always got this amount of assists. The only thing that's changed around him is actually the attacking line. There's better quality around him.
Just this season.
He spent 80% of this season playing as this glorified 6 you're talking about next to Casemiro, mate.
Yeah.
He spent 80% of that season. So in spite of all of that, he has still created more than all of these attacking flavour of the months. More than Odegaard. James Maddison's been out for ages. More than Eze, who's supposed to be amazing. He's supposed to be this, that and the other. More than Cole Palmer, who's better than him. More than Phil Foden, was PFA player two years ago. More than Saka. Casemiro's even got more goals and contributions than Saka. So what I'm saying is there's this real distaste to Bruno Fernandes because he's operated in a club like Man United, which he's, unfortunately for him, has played in an era of Manchester United that is dross. Okay? Not just because of him. look around him. There hasn't been the level of players, the level of manager.
Yes, 6 years.
For 6 years.
So for 6 years,
Yes.
just to clarify, for 6 years, he hasn't had any manager. Okay, maybe manager I'll probably agree with.
No.
But any players, any midfield partnerships behind him, any forwards in front of him, any wingers whatsoever.
Well, not to deliver a Premier League, no.
Any fullbacks.
Not to deliver a Premier League,
Any fullbacks.
No.
But he certainly had a lot more than the finishes that he's had. Flex, he's won 2 trophies.
He's won second. He's finished second. He's finished. This is crazy.
He's won a League Cup
with
and a
forwards alone, he has not had. This has been the best situation, if you're talking about last 6 years, of forward, surely.
It's been the best, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't had any.
No.
So do you
We're
think
talking about
that
the team.
Rasmus Højlund was... Should we feel sympathy for his performances?
Well, no, not just Rasmus Højlund, but they also did have Ronaldo in there. They also had Cavani, which everyone...
And Ronaldo scored 18 goals and Bruno's got 8 assists.
Cavani, who was, let's be honest, a bit past it and injury prone.
But then everyone loved him.
But it wasn't the Cavani that you used to seeing, and it wasn't the Ronaldo that we're all used to seeing. Still great players, but
not at the level.
You've got to think of the context as well.
You tell me when in the last 6 years, Man United's team City won 4 in a row. So take that out.
Yeah.
When has Man United's team been better than City's in any of them 4?
It's not.
When was we better than Liverpool?
But I'm not talking.
Because then that's 5.
I'm not talking.
And then now the Arsenal thing's happening, and look at us. We've just come off the worst run we've ever had with this rubbish manager from before. So when was this time where Bruno Fernandes was supposed to lead us to Premier League glory with this great squad we've assembled?
Well, look. Let's not talk about winning the Premier League title, because clearly that was too much for anyone to ever ask of Fernandes. But let's that's fine. Okay, let's just drop it a little bit and make it a little bit more realistic for Fernandes, right? Let's even say challenge for the title. Okay, so we've also said that going into next season potentially, and even if you look at this season, even if Amorim was sacked a month before, that Man United could have been in the title race. So you're telling me that just this squad now, it was the only squad that could even challenge. In the last 5 or 6 years that he's been there.
No, I'm saying Bruno's the reason why. I'm saying Bruno's not the reason why we didn't.
But you look at the players.
How can he be? He's been the most consistent player, putting on bigger numbers than anybody else who's been more successful than him.
Yeah,
How?
And that's what I'm saying. It's not just about his numbers and individual. You can't use the argument that all of a sudden sports just become about individuals and when you talk about the trophy metric, right? Yeah. But then on the same note, we're talking about how many goals and how many assists has he got himself. But then in the grand scheme of things, I would rather a player who's got 10 goals and 10 assists that contributes to a team who win trophies rather than one individual player who's getting 20 goals and 20 assists. And the difference between these players that we're talking about, which was a good point that you made there in terms of the names that he's being put in terms of the assist and the record that he's going to achieve. The difference is that De Bruyne was contributing to a team who were winning the Premier League title.
Correct.
Henry as well. So you could, but you can. And that's fine. But at the same time, you can't turn around and say that all of the success that these players have had, like Henry, like De Bruyne, like all of the others, Gerrard's the prime example, right? Yeah. What did he go on to win? Look at the players that he was around. Okay, but then you have this level of consistency which Bruno Fernandes has shown, but it contributes to a bigger thing than just look at what I've done. And he doesn't do that.
You're using it to beat him. You are. You're saying he's not as good as we say he is because there's no way Man United could finish with 15th if he's that good.
But this is the narrative that he saved Man United last season.
He did.
Okay, but who saved Tottenham? There was no answer.
It's not about Tottenham.
But it's not. Of course it's not, because there's no answer to that. That's why.
The same way, and we said about this as well. Harry Kane, right, is classed as one of the best ever Premier League players ever, best strikers ever. Right? Now you can say he hasn't won Jack Diddley squat at Spurs. Nothing. What makes him a Premier League legend? The fact that he was consistent to put numbers on the board. Let's talk about what job descriptions are. If you say, what is Bruno Fernandes' job? What is he brought into a team to do? What's he brought in to do?
Yeah, score goals and create chances.
Right. Score goals and create chances. Yeah. Is he a holding midfielder?
Well, no, he's not a holding midfielder. Right. But if we're talking about generational players,
no. Let's just go back.
A Gerrard, you can stick in a 6, an 8, and a 10.
Hold on.
Right, a De Bruyne 6, 8, or 10.
I have not come here.
Henry,
I've not come here to be like he's 1,000,000% better than Gerrard until you admit that. Then you're no. This is about giving Bruno the props he deserves, and there's no discussion or argument about it. His job, right, is to come into a team, in any team he's in, and create and score goals. He's done that as a midfielder higher at any rate than any other midfielder. You don't get strikers and say they take too many shots. You don't have centre-backs and say they got too many headed clearances. You don't have a goalkeeper and you say, yeah, but he's stat padding because he's made too many saves. It's literally his job. So if he's been ever consistent in that, right, whilst the other players haven't been doing that, if everybody did their job to the level that Bruno Fernandes did it in their respective positions, we would win the Premier League. We would. If we had a right back that was as consistent in his craft as Bruno Fernandes was in his, we'd win the Premier League. If we had a striker who did his job how Bruno Fernandes does it, if we had a goalkeeper and didn't waste time on Onana, if we had a left back not like Luke Shaw who's only just been fit this season, if we had 10 other Bruno Fernandeses on the pitch, we would win the Premier League.
Maybe, but then...
not maybe, we would.
Maybe. We don't know. But at the same time...
If saying Bruno Fernandes is the best player in the Premier League this season, if you have 10 more
of them.
Yeah, maybe. I don't fancy Bruno in goal, but he'd get too far forward and leave a bit of space.
If our goalkeeper was in his craft,
I get it. If everyone's performing at the maximum level, then yeah, I get that. But at the same time, the conversation about Bruno Fernandes is, if he was in any other team in the world, as in like a top team, he'd win so many trophies. He'd do that.
Yes, he would.
But that's not necessarily true.
Why is
because
it?
How could it not because be true? You're taking it very simply of saying, right, Bruno Fernandes now on the verge of breaking the assist record, scoring goals, etc.
In a rubbish Man United.
Just get him and plot him in a team,
yes,
and he's going to get the same numbers. The top elite level teams do not just have one single player which everything goes through. They'll have their best player. Every team has their best player. But even when you look at the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, right? He had players who were also contributing to a level where in Fernandes' situation now, yes, okay, I'm not going to use it against him at the fact that he hasn't had the greatest players around him, but at the same time, it's not always about being the guy who provides the goal or the assist. Sometimes it's not about looking up and trying to play
that's what De Bruyne was. Every team that wins,
but at the same time,
that's what every team has.
Yeah, but then at the same time, De Bruyne has players that he knows. Okay, right. Well, if it's not going to be me that's going to provide that pass, I can recycle the ball.
So that's so you're literally just explaining why Bruno hasn't been able to do the things you're asking him to do.
But what I'm saying is, but what I'm talking about is saying that Fernandes in another team, he'd just win loads of trophies. No, because he wouldn't play the way that he does at Man United at other teams.
If Bruno Fernandes played for Manchester City, right, with a prime Aguero, with a prime Rodri behind him,
the same numbers.
with Sane on the wing, and Jesus that side, and a prime Sterling over there, and prime Mahrez over there, bro, be feasting.
Well, so what are you saying? That he'd bring them down?
No, I'm not saying that he'd bring them down, but I'm saying the way that he plays football at Man United, right? Because
what does he do? What's the way he plays?
To create chances, creates goals. But at the same time, the same reason we'll use Man City as the example, right? You look at someone like Jack Grealish, bought for 100 million because he was a flair player. Give me the ball, I'll make anything happen. I can, right? And when he was brought into that team, it was very clear that the only way he's going to play in that team is if he contributes in the way that the manager wants him within that system.
Yeah.
Okay? When you bring Bruno Fernandes into a team, a top level side like a Bayern Munich, a Real Madrid or whatever, they're not going to turn around and go, right, we're going to just forget everything, just go through Fernandes.
But he's clever.
So by that logic,
he's not clever enough to adapt. We've just seen the guy go from a 10 to a 6, and you're saying that he wouldn't be to adapt to be able to play for one of the top teams in the world.
But we also said that for 80% of the time that he was playing in that deeper role, that he just wasn't at the level that he's showing out, which is true, right?
Yeah, because that's not his position. Got to play him in his position.
Yeah, and that's but what I'm saying is, if you go into a team that's a top level team, he is simply not going to be able to play the way that he does. He's just not. He's just not.
He might have to tweak maybe the amount of. He might, because you're saying that basically under Pep, you like, oh, don't keep giving the ball like that, mate. When De Bruyne was there, he was to try something every time. This is the essence of football. There are players whose job it is in the final third to try things and not play safe. There's players whose job it is to keep it safe and keep it simple and to be a facilitator. There's other players' jobs whose job it is to get after people, you know what I mean, make tackles, be firm, be strong, and do the ugly side of the game. Top managers understand top players. Here's another one for you, Neil. I want you to go through the top strikers in the world and ask the question this: would they like to play with Bruno Fernandes? Would Mbappe like someone like Bruno Fernandes with his movement to try and find him? Would Erling Haaland think, if I had Bruno Fernandes in my team, I wouldn't mind that service? Would Victor Gyökeres, even though he ain't great, would he want someone like that? Would Lewandowski, would Kane, would any of these players want to play with somebody like Bruno Fernandes? Ronaldo, who when he was here was getting assists off Bruno Fernandes in the national team. The answer is yes. Your favourite player's favourite player. Yeah, you listen to the way Kevin De Bruyne talks about Bruno Fernandes. Jack Grealish the other day was tweeting, ironically, on his own Instagram, Bruno Fernandes is a joke, man. This guy's a joke. It's only us, the fans, who don't get it. Ask the pros. The other pros go, this guy's a joke.
Yeah, but we can't. I think the pro argument.
Well, they're just going to say it.
No, but it's a bit redundant because if you want to go by that, then we'll listen to Paul Scholes when he criticises Man United or Gary Neville when he criticises.
No, but
you can't. Talk about players that are playing right now in modern football.
His peers, mate. These are his peers that are playing now. The people who share the picture of him. Paul Scholes ain't shared the picture, Bruno.
No.
And also, you've got to think of what people's motivations are. Like, let's be completely honest. You could argue that Paul Scholes has said certain things in order to create attention, in order to create discussion, in order to create controversy. I don't think Jack Grealish is sat there like, I'm going to say this because this
man's injured. He used to play for City, won a treble on our head tops. He's like,
yeah, he is. And I've
he
said
just loves his football. And this is a guy who loves to express himself. He's a bit of a maverick. And he's had a good season at Everton. He's sitting with his leg crocked and watching Bruno going, this guy. Yeah, I've been there with this guy. He's a joke.
And I've said that. I said it right at the start of this conversation that he is at a level.
That seems like ages ago, that does.
Yeah, it might do. But
how many from open play?
No, but
did you like Beckham?
No, but
as a Man United fan, did you like Beckham?
No, but
or was he not that good?
But
if he doesn't take that penalty like he did his 99, we wouldn't have scored. I'm sorry, the corner.
But this is what I'm saying. You can't use an argument when it suits you, but then also be against it when it comes to.
No, but you're taking away the very things that make a player good.
I'm staying.
How many are from open play?
I'm staying consistent.
How many penalties did he score?
I'm staying consistent. I'm staying consistent in my thought process that the way that Arsenal are winning games, the way that they're doing it, just relying solely on set pieces. That's not Barclays. That's not the Premier League football that I've been accustomed to.
That's a different argument.
No, but it's not. It's the same thing. It's such a problem when Arsenal rely on set pieces and oh gosh, here we go again.
But it's not a problem for me. That's for other fans.
But that's what I'm saying. That is the general consensus around a lot of people that they rely too much on set pieces. So we have a problem with that. But when it's one of your own, no, we're blinded by it. I'm just saying we want a bit of consistency. Bruno Fernandes has been phenomenal this season.
That is the name of Bruno.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal this season.
Imagine that.
He's not an all-timer.
Consistency.
Phenomenal, but he's not an all-timer.
We've got to move on because we've
Good.
got to finish the show. I knew this would happen. I knew in the comments. Let us know. Don't let him off the hook. Don't let him off the hook.
You can grill me. It's okay.
100%. Really quickly, it's been reported that plans for a new 100,000 seater stadium, will be privately funded.
And rightly so.
Yeah, exactly. I know you're very big on that. Firstly, do we need a new stadium? Do you want a new stadium?
I have been a little bit on the fence with this one. I can understand why people would want a shiny new stadium, why you would want something that keeps up with, some of the top clubs in world football. You see, especially, with the World Cup in the summer, you see some of those amazing stadiums in the US. You see what Barcelona, what Real Madrid have done with their stadiums. So I understand people wanting something better. We know the roof's leaking. We know that the food ain't great. We know that there's rats and mice and all that stuff going on. So I understand that. However, and I'm sure all Man United fans would relate to this, but for me as a Manc, as a Salfordian, the idea of it not being Old Trafford, it not being that same stadium, that does hurt my heart. That does make me feel sad because there is so much history there. And people still love that stadium. My friend's nephew went to his first Man United game, the Aston Villa game. He's about 7 or 8. And he went and did the tour and saw Old Trafford. And it was like, for those kids, it don't matter that the roof's leaking. It is just such an amazing stadium. You speak to players, even if the roof's leaking, they still say, I remember speaking to Morgan Rogers at an event and he was saying that one of the places that he likes to go is Man United because it does just have that aura. And people might argue, oh, well, United aren't the team they used to be. It doesn't have that same pull, etc. So I understand what people are saying, but I just think it would be a shame for it to not be Old Trafford anymore. But I also understand people wanting something shiny and new. I would just have reservations about what they're going to do with it. I think for me, I would like to see it taken down. And the capacity maybe reduced a little bit and it'd be something for the under-21s, the Manchester United women's team, who I think with the growth of women's football could be playing in a 100,000 seater stadium. I don't see why that isn't a possibility in the future. But at the moment, those sides play in at Leigh Sports Village, which is a rugby pitch, is a complete and utter joke. So I think if it was used for something like that, it'd maybe soften the blow. But yeah, I'm a little bit on the fence in that sense.
Yeah.
Depends what it looks like as well.
What about yourself, Anil? Do you think we need a new stadium now?
Yeah, it is a difficult one because at the same time, I agree with the emotional attachment to it, the history, you know, generations upon generations going to that place. And like Angelina said, you know, there might be a few holes in the roof, but it's still Old Trafford, the theatre of dreams. But then I'm conflicted in when I think about a new stadium, because on one hand, you look at teams like Arsenal, who only recently have really got to grips with their new home. West Ham has been a disaster for them moving to their new stadium. Tottenham, well, you know, we all know what's going on there. So while I agree with that, there's also another side of it that I think, in terms of atmosphere and stuff like that, you know, you're always going to get that with the Man United fans. As long as they're reasonably close to the pitch like they are at Old Trafford, you're going to get the ring around the stadium. But then you do think about the other clubs around the world, that Man United fans certainly like to think that we're still in that category of the teams like Real Madrid, teams like Barcelona. There is going to have to be a point of evolution. And if we always say no to things, then we wouldn't have the product of the Premier League. We wouldn't have VAR for all its issues. It does have a lot of good to it as well. So I think that if you're going to be spending 2.5 billion, then a new stadium to have state-of-the-art everything. You know, you even look at the new training facilities. That is what players want to go and join. And if you have, you know, the state-of-the-art, you have the best match day experiences. Because let's be honest, a match day experience at Old Trafford is poor. It is really poor.
For the club that we are.
For the club that we are, there's nothing for young kids to get involved with before the game. There's no atmosphere outside the stadium. It's only when you really get in that you feel it, right? But it needs to be more of a top club mentality just around the stadium as well. So yeah, but my prediction will be that they will eventually get a new stadium. They'll call it the Ineos Stadium, and Ineos will end up selling the club, but they'll always have revenue because they've called the new Old Trafford Ineos.
Naming rights, but it's a contract though, and it runs out, and you got to renew it, etc. My quick 2 pence is I totally get what Old Trafford is and the sentiment behind it. It hurts.
You can't expand it to the level
and that's
you want
that's
because
the problem.
Of the rail and
I
the
would
river.
if we absolutely could do
like
what Real Madrid have done,
100%.
and you know, new camp, if you knock it down on the spot, rebuild it, and then make it better on the spot, just a bit.
Unless
I would
we're
be
moving
for
tram
that.
lines,
Exactly, but because to my knowledge we can't do that. For me, it's throwing good money after bad to try and ooze a bit more blood out of the stone that is Old Trafford in its present form. And I just think the Man United I know and want to be and continue to be is best in class, is the best in everything. And I don't think our stadium reflects that anymore, which is hurtful. So as much as I love Old Trafford, I love going there, the feeling, like when I first went there, I get that. But I don't think we should be scared of rewriting new history. So yeah, I'm in favour for it, but I'm still not 100% convinced that this is just going to take. Yeah, I'm just.
I genuinely think that Ineos are putting this plan together to show what United could be, to eventually sell the club a few years down the line.
Exactly, and it could well be that. It could well be that. Right, listen, it's been a packed show.
I need a glass of water after that, Flex.
I was going to say, I'm glad you came. I don't know if I am now. Ange, I'm always glad that you're on the show, my co-host as well. I'd rather go back to Crookie after this, to be fair.
AI Crookie.
Yeah, exactly. This has been Inside Devils. We'll see you on the next episode. And remember, this show is sponsored by BetMGM. You can download the app, or you can visit the website betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org. Please gamble responsibly.